This lesson, we are going to be generating a random background color for the body, as well as for the div element that we have on the page, and outputting the color for the div as a hex value that we're looking at within the input area. So every time the button is clicked, it's going to generate a random color for the body, as well as for the div with the class of results. And so these are being changed with JavaScript, and this is just generating that random hex value using JavaScript code. Set up an HTML file that links to a JavaScript file. There's 3 page elements. There's an input, a button, and a div that we can use in order to output the results, and I've selected those with the JavaScript code. So when we click the button, we want to take an action, and the action that we're going to be taking is we're going to generate a random value and then add it into the input area. I'm going to update the input area to be a text type, and we're going to generate a random hexadecimal value and add it into the input whenever the button gets clicked. So let's go ahead and generate the number, and using the math random method. And what math random is going to return, it's going to return a value from 0 to just before 1, so not including 1, and the number that gets returned back right now we're going to output into the console. So we click the button, and there's our random numbers that are being generated. I want to convert these into a hexadecimal. Values of the color values, we use hexadecimal, so we use the 6 characters within a hexadecimal for a value that we use, that we can use for a background color. So when we're generating this, we're going to string, so it's converting it into a string. So before it was in a blue color when it was outputting into the console, that represented a number. Right now it's representing a string, and it's still using the base 10, so that's the decimal system. So we're going to update that to be base 16. And now we should be generating hexadecimal values. So hexadecimal values are represented with characters or digits from 0 to 9, and then also the letters A all the way to F being the largest. So it's on a base 16 that we're generating this output. So we also want to cut this down to represent only 6 characters. So we can take the last 6 characters of the hexadecimal, and using the JavaScript slice method, we can slice out a part of the string. And what slice does is it extracts a section of the string and returns a new string without modifying the original one. So we only need the 6 characters for the color value. So we're going to be doing a slice of the returned result within the number, and this will be our hex value. So we're using the number and then slice. And what we want to do is we want to slice out the last 6 characters. So we can use a -6 in order to represent that. And then let's output that into the console for now. So click it, and this is generating a random hexadecimal value. You can also do this within the one statement as well. So that will generate that random hexadecimal value. And now we can use that in order to represent the color. It's outputted into the My Input area. So this is going to be the hexadecimal color that we're going to be able to visually see. That's going to be output as the value. So we're just assigning the value into the hex area. So that's the hexadecimal value. And we know when we're setting the color values, we need to add in the hash ahead of it. So we can do it where we're using the backticks for the template literals, add the hash, and set the value for the hexadecimal. We can also incorporate that as a string within the one statement, so that way we don't need to include the extra hash, and it's just going to be generating the hexadecimal value. So now we're getting the hexadecimal value, and we can use that in order to update the output area. So right now the output area doesn't have any content, so we're going to select it and update its style, set the width to be 500 pixels, and we'll also set the height of it. So now when we click it, we can also select the output area and update the style, and updating the background color to whatever we have for the random value that was just generated. So every time we click it, we're now getting that random value for the color, and we're also able to see it within the input area of the application. And you can also apply this to the background, and you can do this within the one statement. So document body, style, background color, and then we can set the background color to another random value. We're generating a brand new random background color, as well as outputting the hex value of the div for the background of that div. So that's how you can generate random colors using the math random, converting into a hexadecimal using the toString with the base 16, and then removing out the last 6 characters of the returned result, and that gives us the 6 characters for the background color.